right. I guess where to begin. So Dawn at Zalo has a group right now doing a cleanse protocol for 14 days. And I think it's a great time of the year to do that. The other thing that's going on in my part of the world is that we're getting lots of smoke for the last week. I live in the eastern Washington, but in the west side of the country, where the direction of the wind has been gently pushing all the smoke from the west up to us and other people. So, you know, we're starting to get a break on that, but it brought up the toxic load that we're all dealing with. And, you know, we're already dealing with challenges, whether it's our emotional toxicities or the environmental toxins, and what we can do about it. So I want to go through, as it pertains to, you know, our current situation, your individual situation, like with weight loss problems. It turns out that weight gain is often associated with your toxic load and body burden. So it's important to recognize this. And probably the other issue that's been late happening in our part of the world is fluoridation controversy. Now, that's not happened yet in our water supply, but it reminded me of just the overall toxic burden that we're all facing. So I'm going to cover kind of just a really informal Q&A here. So if you're watching this now or later, just go ahead and post your questions or comments, and I'd be happy to answer them as we go. All right. Hey, Dawn, you there?
I'm here. I hear you.
Okay, good. How is this cleanse going? But before you answer that, I wanted to know, what's your number one, or maybe 1, 2, or 3 strategies for yourself that's dealt with the stress and everything that's going on? Like, you know, is it work related or just your self-care? So since last March, what, you don't have to answer that, but I thought you had a couple of, I could share some of mine.
No, totally. Like mine would be exercise, making sure I'm getting enough sleep, establishing some social media boundaries, taking my grandkids on a road trip. I mean, we're really limited on what we can do, but I found creative ways to break up the monotony.
Mm-hmm.
And then this cleanse. It's like we need a reset, reboot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally comfortable answering that.
I am. So one thought that I had as I came back to the video was that, of course, people are still seeing blank screen right now, but they can hear us. Actually, I can turn my video back on. Are you wanting to unmute your video?
No.
Okay. You're funny.
You're funny. You're braver than me.
What if, okay, well, there's your picture.
Yeah. And they can hear my voice.
Oh, Dawn.
I know. One step at a time, Dr. Graves.
Well, so that's the thing, is we're getting used to the new normal, which is this virtual world. But I get it. It's like, I started to get to the point, maybe it's through the frustration of like what happened, what started last March. I felt like it was my own, part of my personal therapy has been to vent. For me, it was kind of almost doing some new things, but also trying to keep what is my normal routine, even though we're getting pushed out of our routine.
Right.
So, you know, exercise and staying active, you know, and taking the kids on some little trips, you know, more local, but we did do a little bit of a further trip down in Idaho and kind of away from crowds and all that, just because we like the woods and great outdoors. And then if you put your comments in, if you're watching this later, Dawn and I'll monitor these questions. We can. So Dawn, why don't you talk about the cleanse you're doing right now? Just a quick overview.
Sure. There's a group of us, well, mostly ladies, participating in this 14-day detox. And I feel like there's a little bit of a misconception about what detox means. So we're not eating. So we are eating. It's not a colon cleanse. It's at least I view it more of like a reset, reboot, refocus on our nutrition, because ever since March, you know, I'm in the weight loss industry. I get people telling me, you know, the stress, they put on the COVID-15, some people put on the COVID-25. And so I just thought that this was a great way just to easily start into readjusting our diet and our habits, and using the support of some supplements and some shakes. And we have a closed Facebook group, and so there's the support of one another and sharing recipes. You know, we were going over how the shakes were a little bit, we needed to work on those. And then Dr. Graves shared some ideas for making smoothies. And so then we all just started sharing our smoothie recipes. So that's helped. You know, we're in the first week and a lot of people are down like 4 or 5 pounds without, you know, really trying. Mm-hmm. On my end, I'm not really hungry. I think the shakes have really helped, and the supplements. It's pretty easy, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's something that I think almost every fall I start thinking about. And Dawn, you don't see this? I have it screen shared and it's my outline.
I see it.
Oh, you do see it. Okay, wonderful. Yep. Okay, that's right, because you see it on the Zoom call. Yep. But to me, I feel like there's 2 times a year that seem to fit well with the seasons and detoxification, and that is in the spring and the fall. And I think at the end of this video, I want to talk about sort of going into the holidays. There's some really good aspects of diet that just come naturally after doing a detox. Because my goal, and I think yours is as well, Dawn, is that we take the time to do an intentional, let's say 14-day cleanse, and then what do we do after? You know, as you've worked with weight loss and with clients, and I have as well with patients, it's a struggle because we all are prone to, you know, falling off the wagon, or we try hard, fail, and repeat.
Right.
What's hard is that it gets harder every time to get successful in health steps if you keep that yo-yo going. So the point being is that we're here to try to support people all year long and empower people to take what you do and learn, and to, you know, do a cleanse and then follow that up with a sustainable change in the way you live and eat. And nobody's perfect by far. I mean, I have one thing, and I'll back to that question about what have we done during this crisis, closures and all this stuff. And besides doing the routines that I think are healthy and good for my family, is also to include new things that it's pushed me to do. So, you know, initially we can become very down. We can start to, you know, lose hope. And so we can start to sit around, you know, watching the news, not eating healthily, go to our comfort foods. Right. And so what I've done is I forced myself to, as I did in other videos, I talked to you, Dawn, about doing Wim Hof, doing Joe Dispenza meditations, doing grounding. And so I've, you know, had to remind myself to keep on that. But once you know, what does it take to form a habit? It's 30 days. I use the rule of 3s often, where if you can do something at least 3 times a week for 30 days, you can get to a habit.
I like that.
It works positively and negatively. So if you stopped working out because the gym's closed for 30 days, well, now we're what, 6 months. And then the smoke. So I put this outline together. It was kind of a random order, but I started to talk about in here in the smoke with all that's going on in the West. So I thought I would talk about that really quick. And then I talk about detoxification in the liver. And I didn't really put weight loss, but I want to make sure if I don't touch on that, I'll get to that as well. And how detoxification relates to gastrointestinal function and the type of dietary choices that help that happen. And then, of course, this protocol that you're doing.
Okay.
So, and I know you may have to jump off I don't want this to go too long because I tend to make long videos, and they say you need to keep them to like 10 minutes. So, probably already over that. Anyway, so those that are locally, you know that we're dealing with smoke. I was just going to cover obvious symptoms. You know, we're all staying indoors, many of us, for the past week. I mean, this came in last Saturday, early in the morning. I went to bed on Friday night with decent air and woke up Saturday with the smoke. And of course, if you're living in California or Oregon and other places in Washington, you were getting the smoke much sooner. And, you know, what's interesting, of course, smoke is just one other body burden that's added into what we're already dealing with. You know, we do live in a part of the country where our air is pretty good, unless you live down in the lower parts of Spokane, in that you get the stagnant air, you can get pollution that just sits there. That's been hard because the smoke came in and we haven't had hardly any wind. So it was all just kind of sitting here. But anyway, smoke, obviously you should avoid it. It's mostly particulates, you know, the actual ash and small bits of the carbon and material that's actually burning, but there's toxins in there as well. Formaldehyde, acrolein, carbon monoxide. I mean, this is in that stuff as well. And if you have health conditions, obviously, the CDC and actually state of Washington Public Health put out a statement about how the smoke is only adding to people's risk for an adverse event with COVID-19. Now that's true, as well as it's true of any other infection and other body burden that we're dealing with. So it's, and also I put this diagram in here because when I think of the lungs and health, I think it's important to remember also what cigarette smoking does, as well as other, you know, these particulate smoke fumes, etc. Vaping has a different profile, but it also has been shown to damage the lung health. This is showing the inside cells of the lung, and these are epithelial cells with cilia. These are these like hair-like projections that sit inside the lung cavities there, and you can see the lung particles like smoke particles or dust or dirt or whatever, or microbes get caught up in it, and then they have a gentle movement in mucus that pushes them up. You know, when you have to clear your throat, that is the mucus being pushed up by the cilia in the lungs. Now, the reason this is interesting to me is that there's many things that inhibit and damage the cilia of the lungs. Now, also, it's important to remember that the lungs are extremely absorbent. So they absorb carbon monoxide, they absorb formaldehyde and other toxins that you don't want into the body. And we'll get to that in terms of liver health, how to clear that, because that's happening all the time. But so infectious, I put an underlined sentence here. It says organisms. That's really things like viruses, bacteria, fungal, anything foreign that gets into the lungs gets caught up. But they release toxins or themselves inhibit the cilia in some cases. Most medications, it's fascinating and unfortunate, but many drugs inhibit the ability for your lungs to clear. And if you're trying to, you know, avoid ARDS, you know, acute respiratory distress syndrome, or, you know, people who have COPD, you know, other cardiovascular disease can all damage and decrease your ability to clear it. Plus, if you're on these drugs, now drug excipients are it's the material they make the drug tablet out of, which isn't even the active ingredient. And I found that really interesting, that almost all the excipients that they use to manufacture drugs harm the epithelial ciliary action, unfortunately. So that's bad. So you don't want to try to avoid. I won't go through all the medications because there's many. All right, so from there, you know, the lungs absorb, but let's move into the body, because it's not just the lungs that have a toxic load to deal with. It's also the natural metabolism in your body and the things you eat and the metabolic waste products of respiration and activity. So our bodies are like tiny engines. You know, your car has to have an exhaust system, right, that vents out the exhaust. You have air filters and gas filters, and of course an electric car has systems to eliminate excess heat and byproducts. But this is just a diagram that's probably not really easy to see on the video, but it shows the liver is in shadow here. And then there's two primary phases of detoxification within the cells of the liver. But it's also interesting to note that these phases of detoxification are actually in many, many cells in the body, in the digestive epithelial cells. They're in the lungs as well, in part, but especially they're very high levels in the liver. And the cytochrome P450 pathways is the most of the toxins and metabolic waste products have to be eliminated through this process. So it's not like it's a very crude and inaccurate way to describe the liver as just a filter. You know, I actually, as a side note, I like to eat liver. I think it actually tastes good when prepared well, but sometimes I've had one of the #1 questions I hear is like, oh, why would you want to eat the liver? Because it's filtering out all the toxins, isn't it full of damage or toxins, etc.? And that's a good question, but the answer is no, it's not a filter. It's smarter than that. It's actually eliminating toxins very quickly so they don't build up or you die. You know, you don't. That's why you want the good animal products, you know, from animals that are free ranged, etc. And you know, buying organic, fresh and local. Then the liver you get from a beef, say from a cow or chicken liver that's raised well, it's not going to, in fact, it'll have less toxins than a lot of the meat and other part of the animal that we're actually eating. And so,
Hey, Dr. Graves, question.
yeah.
I started taking some supplements like desiccated like beef organs that include liver. So if people aren't too excited to eat liver, is that a great alternative depending on your source of supplement, I suppose?
Yeah.
Making sure that it's grass-fed.
Yes. I'm a big fan of liver powder or capsules if you don't like the flavor. I've been known to put liver powder in my smoothies, but believe it or not, it doesn't come through as much as you might think, but you can be the judge of that. When I studied nutrition, I was fascinated by, and this is all published textbooks, go to nutritiondata.com or one of the food databases. If you search all of the common nutrients that we need, you find them in multivitamins. The highest sources of the most vitamins and minerals essential to human beings, if we're looking for one food source, liver comes up over and over and over again. Part of the reason for that is because of this diagram. You can see, well, you may not be able to see this, but these lists here are all the B vitamins. We've got amino acids, flavonoids, antioxidants, vitamins A, C, E, copper, zinc, molybdenum, coenzyme Q10, and food-sourced phytochemicals that are vital for the liver to work. So anyway, back to eating liver, if you can, great. It's loaded with all these. Now you can also take these nutrients, which is part of why the cleanse protocols or the programs are really helpful, because they just put it in a shake for you. But this diagram, the main reason I really wanted to show this diagram, and I'll talk about some of the nutrients below in a second, but it's to show that these two phases, there's a big problem in this. And in the middle, you see these stars, these are reactive oxygen, or excuse me, free radicals. And these are damaging chemicals. So this weird part of nature is that phase 1 removes toxins by making them more reactive in many cases. So whether it's a medication or natural metabolite, it has to be eliminated. It gets hyper-reactive. And if you don't have phase 2 working well, as many people don't, for reasons I'll explain in a second, you can actually do more harm by having high levels of some of these other nutrients. So it's been shown, one fascinating study I always think of is when they showed that the supplement beta-carotene, which is a plant source of vitamin A, increased cancer rates in men that smoke. And the study's been, you know, it's hypothesized the reason for that is this issue, in part, is that if you give someone one nutrient and they're missing other vital nutrients, you can actually do more harm to that person. So And most multivitamins, or just common cheap over-the-counter supplements, don't actually have the phase 2 nutrients. So that's why a balanced cleanse protocol is really helpful if you make sure you have that, so those phases. So I'll talk about some of the phase 1 and phase 2s here, and other related ways to get these toxins out of the body. So, you know, Dawn, this guidebook, I know for this cleanse. Well, actually, I know you don't want to turn your camera on, but if you have the box of the Pure Paleo Cleanse and want to just hold that in front of the camera. If not, I'll post, we can post an image of it later.
No, here it is.
Okay, let me stop screen share. Oh, you're...
Oh, wait.
Yeah, you can't see it because of your virtual background.
Well, let's change that.
So Designs for Health is one of the, Don, you and I agree on this, probably the #1 company that I go to for therapeutic strength and physician strength supplements and products. So, you know, I don't work for them. People can get that from you and I, those products, but we try to just make the best available. Anyway, so if you, has it? I think when you go to turn your camera on, Don, it will show up, but right now it's just showing me. Anyway.
Okay. Let me change this.
Yeah, you're on your phone, so it's a little bit trickier. Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Perfect. There we go. Yeah, VegaCleanse Plus. Now that you notice they've got that in a few different variations, but essentially they bundled. Yeah, if you want to pull one of the, because it comes with a packet of a shake, well, the guidebook. This is a 14-day protocol. And again, I'll come back to those phases of detoxification, but so it's got the shake, which is, how's the taste testing going with you?
Well, now that we're doing smoothies and mixing it with either coconut or almond milk, it's way better. Just straight water was a little bit challenging, but it definitely works. And as far as not being hungry and being a meal replacement for me.
Yeah. Well, and it was funny when the complaints about flavor came up, because I immediately thought, oh, good. It's a sign that it's a good cleanse protocol if the shake doesn't taste like a milkshake from McDonald's. I mean, to be frank about it, because those nutrients are not pleasant tasting in most cases. Now they do. It's better over the years. That product I've used from Designs for Health, and it's improved in flavor. But you can't put a lot of sugar in it, or otherwise you're defeating the purpose. But definitely in something besides water is a big help with like the smoothies, and I posted some recipe ideas. So the product also has the additional detox supplements, which are those phase, and let me go through those real quick here again. So I don't want to bore people. So phase 1, again, these are important, but these are ones that often people are getting more of, and it's that phase 2 that I'll probably really emphasize as to why the cleanse protocols are important. Active B vitamins, again, flavonoids, phospholipids. So flavonoids, if you don't know what those are, that's what's in colorful fruits primarily. You know, melons, berries, citrus. Also in vegetables like onions. Onions are high in quercetin. They are water soluble versus carotenoids, which are fat soluble. And carotenoids are also important. They're in these phases down here, carotenoids below. That is beta carotene. It's in tomato, like lycopene, astaxanthin, that's in like krill oil, and in salmon. Nature creation has these pigments that I think guide human nutrition. If we stop and think about things that are pretty, that nature creates, often we should eat them. That's not always the case. So don't go harvest any berries out there unless you know what you're eating. But blueberries, strawberries, acai, and those are some fancy high flavonoid foods. Glutathione. So
Yeah.
what's cool about glutathione is that it's important for phase 1 and phase 2. It's also, many people don't make enough of it. It is a natural intracellular antioxidant. You need adequate amino acids. The three have branched chain amino acids listed there, but I won't. That's kind of a little side note. Glutathione, though, is made up of cysteine, glycine, and glutamate. You get those from protein, but a lot of people, you have to remanufacture that in your body, and many people don't have enough. If you have a toxic load, like breathing smoke, if you're an athlete, which we promote, you know, even if there's no smoke, you create a lot of toxins, and you need to turn over and put in more of these antioxidants and glutathione precursors. You can inject glutathione, and Dawn, I know we're looking at, oh, Dawn, you're muted.
I turned off the mute.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you mute and you need to mute, that's fine. I thought maybe you accidentally did that. I'm scared that I'm talking to myself.
No, I'm here.
So, so two forms of glutathione that are pretty exciting now is that you can take liposomal orally, which is better absorbed, and then probably even better for some people who struggle with certain conditions, and weight loss is one of them, but having a high toxic load, and that's the injectable glutathione that you can also do. If you're somebody who has other health conditions or lung compromise, low immunity, if you've been around either chemicals in an industry that are airborne or secondhand smoke, or you were or are a smoker, by all means, you need more glutathione. And of course, let's work on getting you to quit smoking. But let's see. One, I was going to talk about a couple of plants, basically the broccoli family specifically, because these are really important for this smoke toxin lung clearing, among other things. But it's, you know, if you've ever looked up or heard about these superfoods like broccoli sprouts, it's because they have these sulfur compounds. They're referred to as thiols, or the sulforaphane. It's a hard one to get out. Those act in that phase 2, this sulfation. So sulfur we kind of think of as maybe a chemical and it's toxic, but you need these sulfur-based amino acids to actually detoxify. And I believe they have that in that cleanse that you're doing. They're going to have those constituents. So phase 2, by the way, just really quick, again, glutathione is in this list, these amino acids. Calcium D-glucarate, taurine, N-acetylcysteine, the glutathione, I already said, glutamine. These are in protein, but the problem is a lot of people eat such a repetitive diet, or they lack their digestion isn't working properly, that they have a, you know, a temporary or even a permanent deficit on making enough of these. And if you do, oh, and I jumped over this, but this is underlined. So protective factors against those intermediate reactive molecules that I talked about. That's why I went into the broccoli family. By the way, eat your broccoli, but you need to cook those. Or the supplements. The Designs for Health has a great product called Brocco Protect. So I'm going to jump on the smoke issue. I started last week taking Brocco Protect, NAC, N-acetylcysteine. Of course, I always take vitamin C. I am not taking liposomal glutathione right now, but it's kind of, I think, certainly helpful. But you can, again, if you're in those higher risk categories, I would definitely consider the liposomal or injected glutathione. So, and I eat broccoli, but if you eat raw cruciferous, or the, you know, cabbage, kale, turnips, what else? Cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. Nobody really likes to eat those raw, and there's a reason for that. They actually suppress thyroid function, and you don't activate these sulfur compounds as efficiently. So not always is raw food better. Okay, so moving along. So when it comes to a detox, I just wanted to address a couple of things. One is the gastrointestinal function. It should be kind of common sense, but part of this cleanse is that you better be eliminating adequately. So that's water through the kidneys, your, you know, urination and defecation. So bowel movements. I've had people go on cleanses and then report a week later that they're constipated in the middle of it. And that's like a red flag to immediately stop the cleanse and address it. You know, it's usually something quickly dealt with by more water intake and perhaps a little extra fiber. But sometimes they're getting too much fiber and they're not drinking enough water. That's step one. And then if we have to, Dawn, there's colonic,
Yep.
there's probiotics, you know, dysbiosis and the microbes within the gut. Sometimes when you start doing a cleanse, they go bonkers. They're like, what's going on? I'm not getting my usual diet. And that's called dysbiosis. You have a lot of microbes that shouldn't be there because you've been feeding it processed foods. So some people might get constipated or even diarrhea and bloating. There's a big battle going on to get rid of that. So, you know, steps to get rid of it. The cleanse itself should help, but sometimes extra probiotics and other protocols to get the bowel moving through. And then, of course, the diet, I won't go into the cleanse has its guide protocol in there, Dawn. I don't know, you have a comment about that? I know that obviously you need to remove simple carbohydrates, grains, dairy, and make sure you're getting enough fresh fruits and vegetables and fiber. Anything about the diet?
Basically it's just removing dairy, grains, and of course sugar from your diet. And you are drinking a shake in the morning with your supplements, and then you can choose to skip lunch and do another shake and supplements and then have dinner. Or if you would rather do the drink in the morning, eat lunch, and then you would have the shake and supplements at dinner time. So there's some flexibility. And to be honest, it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Because I think you're supported nutritionally a lot through the supplements and the shakes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you made me think of an important aspect of the program and the products, and that is the convenience. Well,
Right.
number one, for safety and effectiveness, you've got all those cofactors in the shake. But I've always felt pretty satisfied that you get up and you're getting something that, of course, make a smoothie so it tastes good and you can enjoy it. But you're going to be pretty satisfied and it's quick. You're not constantly trying to build a meal plan every day to be perfect on a cleanse diet. So that way you can displace, you know, you're unhealthy, or, you know, and sometimes maybe you're not eating unhealthy, but it's a good reset to eliminate the burden of what we might be doing for breakfast every day.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, I just put a list here of 5 in no particular order, but of considerations for a good detox. Again, I don't know if we were actually on the call or on the video when I said this, Dawn, but I think that, I think I did. It's because we started a couple of times. I think we should do a cleanse twice a year, in the spring and in the fall. I think seasonally, it's just more in resonance with the body's natural ebb and flow. You know, think of spring cleaning. I think the fall is great because often we've been maybe a little off the rails during the summer, and then before the holidays hit.
Right.
It's perfect right now to set you up for some good habits going into the holidays. And part of what I want to end on, not quite yet, but Dawn, if we could, before we end, we'll talk about what we might be doing here. We tried to do it last March, you know, as COVID was taking off. We were doing a low carb support group and we got stalled out. So, but yeah, so basic supplementation, obviously. I just don't think, myself included, even though I go get fresh produce, I don't feel like I'm fully taken care of without some supplementation. If you think about those pathways of detoxification, you need a high quality multi. I kind of cringe when I see people write on their intake to come see me and they have, you know, I'll pick on some of the brands, Nature Made, Nature's Best, or whatever, these drugstore over-the-counter products that are just so poor. Anyway, you might as well invest with stuff that's actually going to be effective. You know, and of course, eat real food. That's a part of whether you're a cleanse or eating just normally anyway.
I think I'd like to add on, people who are intermittent fasting, me included, if you're vegan or vegetarian, we have to have supplements because we're not eating, at least I feel like I'm not eating a full rounded menu. And so I need supplementation, I think.
Yeah, right. And I don't know who's sitting around. I mean, I pray for the day when maybe when I'm retired and I consider, I actually like to cook. And so if I had a time, my garden, barely got a garden in last summer, but every year I say I need to make a bigger garden. But if you're like many of us, we don't have time to always have in the refrigerator fresh produce that's from the best sources. And anyway, the supplements are insurance policies. It's kind
Right.
of helping us along. But diet's foundational.
Yep.
You can't not get some of those essential foods. Let's see. I talked about bowel movements. We want to talk about that. But testing. The test that I thought of when I talk about detoxification, I think is really helpful is, Dawn, I don't know if we've talked about this one a lot, is the organic acids testing. Are you familiar with that?
Just through our brief conversations, but nothing specific.
Yeah, so if you're someone who does have other health conditions, or you have struggled with weight gain, or losing, gaining, if you feel like, and honestly, if you just anyone who wants to get a really good handle on your liver function status, your nutrient status, and actually customize supplementation, it's a simple urine test, and you can find out how you're metabolizing all these things. Also the whole bacteria or dysbiosis issue can bring up markers if you may have fungal or yeast overgrowth in the bowel, allergies, all these things clues can come up on that. So it's a way to really it's a way to get started if somebody's interested in that. Occasionally, if you have a lot of gastrointestinal problems, there are further testing, obviously, and Dawn, I do the hormone testing.
Yep.
That's important for metabolism and all that. So let's see, I think this was the end of my outline. So the 14-day detox, and I feel like 14 days is really the minimum you want to think about doing. It's a good way to, not have to do it for a whole month. There are 3-week programs. Those are great as well. But I'm hoping, Dawn, that we can, right after yours. So here's the deal. We talked about, you have a group right now doing, what day did you guys start? On Monday?
We started on Monday. Yep.
And you have a private group for that, which those
Correct.
are in there. What I want to do is, with you, launch a second group to do the 14 days here at the end of September.
Perfect.
So beginning, I haven't really looked at the calendar, but what day of the week is that? But we'll put the links up, and if anyone is interested, I'm going to be doing it. And when I'm actually doing it, I'm going to be a lot more proactive in support and conversation on the group here in Facebook, etc. But let's see, the end of the month looks like the 1st of October is a Thursday. That's 2 weeks from today. So I don't see any reason why I couldn't pick that as our start date. So we're going to be ordering more of the 14-day cleanse. And Dawn and I can coordinate that. So just let us know in the comments or contact Zalo.
Perfect.
Let's see. And then as a kind of a primer for just what's happening next, is that I feel like the timing is perfect for mid-October to begin the conversation about low carb. And I think, Dawn, I didn't talk to you about this, but I really feel like something like a 45-day keto, because it takes us right into, Thanksgiving. And if you develop the benefits of doing a cleanse and then go into a low carb / keto, depending on how strict you are or want to be, not everybody needs to be strictly keto.
Right.
But you can really enjoy the holidays. I've been, since 2016, or was it 15? Anyway, it's 4 or 5 years where I just almost look forward to being in ketosis going into October, November, December, because I feel good. my energy's high, my metabolism's high, and I stay warm going into winter. This is a whole conversation we'll go into about keto, but it's perfect for winter without feeling sluggish and loading up on, unfortunately people gain a lot of weight through the holidays, and you can still enjoy some of those foods, just making the choices. So
Right.
we will be, I think, be able to do some support going into those months. So maybe by say October 15th, we'll look at starting that support group.
That sounds awesome.
Do you have any comments or further?
I would just encourage people who are interested in doing the 14-day detox cleanse to reach out to either one of us. And it's, we're on our 4th day as a group, and it's pretty simple. And that is very conducive to being convenient with kids getting back into school. If you're homeschooling, some of us are getting back to work. So it's super easy.
Yeah, totally. I thought of one little thing I want to plug on this 14-day detox, though, when it comes to weight loss, that I forgot to really make sure I get across. And I'm typing a note real quick on the 14-day detox. I'm just putting next round starts October 1st. Join now. It sure is helpful to have friends and acquaintances, patients, anyone helping you and support it. So whether it's a spouse, partner, friend.
Right.
This is, Dawn, you asked me about kids, didn't you? So kids,
Yeah.
it is safe. I would say it's a little bit, just tone it down. If the kid is, say, less than 10 years old, you should probably consult, me or Dawn, or a physician who's familiar with the products. It's just lowering the amount you would give a kid, but it is very safe. There's nothing wrong with them doing it. Kids can thrive and do need that. But on weight loss, when it comes to detox, it has been proven and shown that a lot of people who struggle losing weight, it's because there's a lot of toxic load that's actually locked into fat cells, and the body will resist allowing you to burn fat cells when you have a high toxic burden. And that's one of the reasons why, a cleanse/detox program is designed to lose weight in a healthy way so that you don't become more toxic. Because you can become, it's often been shown that people have acute cystitis, or not cystitis, that's a bladder infection. It's the cholecystitis of the gallbladder. A lot of women especially lose their gallbladders when they've tried to lose weight. I don't know if you have heard of that happening. But part of it is the toxic burden. And of course, having a pre-existing problem with your liver and gallbladder system prior to weight loss. And so just doing some kind of medically guided or extreme weight loss program without the support can actually be harmful, and you won't be as successful, obviously. So that's where your body stores toxins. Over the decades of life, we put it into fat stores primarily. It can be elsewhere, but it's primarily stored in your fat. So you got to unburden and open up those channels of detoxification. Things like sauna is helpful. Also, we won't really go into other strategies, but exercise, when you sweat, and obviously regular daily bowel movements, if not a couple of them, and that hydration. So probably that wasn't too bad, Dawn. I think we've only gone a little over 30 minutes. So.
Okay. Good job, Dr. Graves.
All right. So we'll try this again. Maybe we'll take some questions that come in and do some follow-ups and try to be here to support you all. So thanks for watching. Dawn, thanks for being brave, and we'll see you all in the next video.
All right. Bye.
Bye.